Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? The show that brings you answers to many of the questions that you may have, but with no one to ask. Do You Ever Wonder is hosted by Mike Haltman, CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, who, like you, has always been deeply curious about a wide variety of topics. Each week, Mike will be speaking with guests who are leaders in their field and who have inspirational stories to tell. So now, sit back and enjoy the show.
How are you, Michael?
I'm good. So, I would like to give a brief introduction of today's guest. And, we've had some philanthropic guests on the show before. One introduced me to our guest, who was Valerie Smaldone.
Yes.
But today's guest really walks the walk and talks the talk in a little bit of a different way in terms of selflessness, giving back, of sacrifice. Uh, Unbelievable in terms of what it is that he does, and it's for what he does is for the home his family came from, which is Cuba. And the conversation we're going to have today, his family left Cuba in 1963. Our guest was in his mommy's belly at the time when they left. Uh, and it's just such an inspirational story of giving back. And, as I'll mention a little bit later, it's non political. What we're going to talk about today has nothing to do with anyone's view of Cuba. What it has to do with is helping those in need. And Chazz Menendez, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael.
A real pleasure. So, again, I was introduced to Chazz by Valerie Smaldone. For those of you who know radio, I first heard Valerie on the radio. She was a disc jockey, I guess, for want of another word. I don't know what they call it today, but one of the sweetest, most giving people.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic. And she said, you got to meet this guy, Chazz. And I said, I'm always open to meeting people. And so, Chazz, you told me a little bit about your story. Your family came here in 1963, but what intrigues me a little bit more, and then we'll get into your 501c3.
Mhm.
You're giving back in selflessness. So by trade, you were a stuntman.
And yeah, stuntman and stunt coordinator for 28 years in the union. I
And you
recently
worked
had
on
to, yeah,
you worked on some pretty well-known shows.
yeah. Law and Order, Blue Bloods. Um, then I started coordinating on Power, 6 seasons. It's like uh, the most successful show on Stars Network. And then they had a couple spin-offs. Ghost, I coordinated on, and 2 seasons of Raising Canaan.
Well, that's a fantastic resume, but in 2001, September 12th to be exact, your life kind of took a little bit of a turn. You volunteered to go down to the World Trade Center and you worked the pile or near the pile
Yeah,
for 2 days.
two
And,
days.
and after those 2 days, when the party line was that everything down there was fine, that the air was fine, everything was fine. But you were then turned away because,
Because the president showed up and he only wanted first responders um, to work on the pile.
right. So you left, but those 2 days on the pile left an indelible mark on you
Yeah.
because eventually you were diagnosed with cancer, brain cancer,
What's that?
brain cancer,
Yeah,
correct?
very rare brain cancer. And I didn't realize I got it from ground zero because I was literally getting operated. The first time was 2013 when my wife knocked me out at a party. It's really crazy. She literally saved my life. We had boxing gloves on, but me and my wife met at Kung Fu class, just to give you a little background. And so she's just, she's great and she saved my life. So anyway, that was in 2013. And after that surgery, the pathology report said that it's been growing for over 10 years. And I still didn't put it together. So I had several surgeries throughout the years, and then I had 3 surgeries 3 weeks apart in 2019. And I put my profile picture on my Facebook page, September of 2020 or 2020. And my friend, good friend, who's a chiropractor, he goes, those tumors came from working at Ground Zero. I was like, I just volunteered there for 2 days. He said people were there for 5 hours and they got cancer. So I put a claim in, and I had the picture of me down there, and you could see all the toxic air. And there's a firefighter behind me without a mask on. I don't have a mask on, and basically the math is, so 2000. He said it's grew for over 10 years. 2003, 2013, 10 years before would have been 2003, and it was over 10 years, and we just put that together. So now I'm on the World Trade Center program.
But you were forced to retire due to
Yeah.
due to that illness, and because you did retire, it allowed you to follow a different path, which is the 501c3 that you started. Tell me a little bit about that. SupportCubans.Life.
Yeah. So I went to Cuba for the first time when I was 58, 2 years ago. And as soon as I got off the plane, I just felt so connected with the country. And then when I went to the neighborhoods, I was like, oh my God. Not the tourist areas, but like near the tourist areas. And I was staying at an Airbnb that I was telling everybody I'm at a 5-star Airbnb. But when I pulled up, it looked like the ghetto, like the projects. And so the first day I visited my family's hometown of Kohima, which is on the water. It's where Hemingway wrote the best-selling book and shot the Oscar-winning movie, The Old Man and the Sea. And that place is beautiful because of Hemingway. He was a good friend with Castro, and they were just renovating his bar, beautiful area. And then I went to the capital and Old Havana, which are beautiful areas. But then I went back to my neighborhood, and I started just, wandering around the neighborhood, and it was like they have no garbage pickup. Cats and dogs, they get along, but they have to scavenge everything. And I just felt like, I need to help these people because I really feel connected to my mother. And I really feel that she had me wait till I was 58, because if I would have gone any sooner, I couldn't have helped them because I was raising my 2 boys.
Right.
Now they're completely raised, and they're awesome. And so now that's why, I went 4 times in 1 year. And the second time I went, I had to go back a week later for 48 hours because a woman that I now call my mom and her sister that I now call my aunt, her sister had diarrhea for over 2 months. And I literally thought she was going to die from dehydration. And I couldn't find any Imodium or Pepto-Bismol anywhere, not even in the tourist areas. And so I came back 2 weeks later, and another 2 duffel bags full of donations, and I basically saved her life.
So you went into the regular neighborhoods, not the tourist places, and
Right.
You recognized that there was a need. And the
Yes.
need basically, forgetting about the dogs and cats who scavenge, but the need for rank and file Cuban citizens. What kinds of things are they lacking?
Everything. I mean, everything. They have no medicine. Um, but they smile like they don't have, but I've never seen a more loving country. And it's just like, I don't feel danger at all. I was literally, so they cut the electricity off from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day, and from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every night to save electricity, right? And I just felt like, I just have to help these people, man. I mean, they were just so loving, and no one goes into these neighborhoods because it's even worse than the worst neighborhood in the South Bronx. It's more like, I don't know if you ever saw a documentary in the Bronx in the 70s where all the buildings were crumbling. So the country's been hit with hurricanes for over 50 years, and they don't fix those areas. They only fix other areas. And nobody goes into these areas because it's like, terrifying. But I grew up on the street. My travel team, I make sure that they grew up on the street and they have, fighting skills, whatever that is, and they're basically comfortable. So every team member, it's like they don't even flinch because they already grew up in these neighborhoods.
How
But
big is
what's that?
how big is your team?
I got 5 people right now. I got 3 on the website, but 2 more just joined, and I'm just waiting for their pictures and bios.
So your team members go with you to on the trips to Cuba.
Yes. So basically, we carry 2 50-pound bags each of essentials and clothing, medicines and all that. And then if 2 members come, that'll be like 300 pounds. One came with me the last time, and it was 200 pounds. And you can see on my website just exactly how we connect with the people on a personal level. We don't want to ship those essentials because we literally want to connect with the people.
Well, plus, if you shipped them, would they get to the people who need them?
I don't think so.
So
I
now,
mean,
when you come through customs at the airport with 50-pound duffel bags filled with essentials,
yeah.
Is there a problem getting those things into the country?
No, absolutely not. When you basically book an Airbnb, they ask you 4 questions why you're going. It's either for education, an athletic program, vacation, or to help the people of Cuba. And that's why I always pick that. And that's why, luckily, the country allows you to come and help them. So that's a great thing.
So if you're there to help the people of Cuba, there's no issue.
No, not at all. They don't even like look at your bags. I mean, it's really weird. There's no like customs.
There's not.
No.
So now, how do you vet or decide who it is that's going to receive what it is that you're bringing?
Well, I made lots of friends there, and my mother and aunt lives at the Airbnb, like on the 3rd floor of the Airbnb. And then my friend Yami is like my contact there. Her and her boyfriend Michael, and we basically put like there's a location across the street that is like an empty bar, but it's just empty because they don't have anything, and so we'll have events there where kids from the neighborhood, families from the neighborhood can come, and we'll give them essentials. Also, there's families that we know that they give me specific things that they need. And eventually we're going to travel around. Of course, we're going to work on Havana first. But then we're going to, because Yami has like relatives, her parents live on the other side of the island. And it's all like, just horrible situations. But, they deal with it because they have to deal with it.
Right.
And it's just amazing how they can smile and dance and celebrate life.
Well, on a, I mean, not to break it down to a saying, but necessity is the mother of invention. But
I always say that.
I made that. That's good. You owe me money. I made that up. So now your tagline is people helping people caring for people,
Yes.
and which obviously you're doing. You must be very popular when people see you coming into the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely. They know exactly what I'm doing.
right.
Obviously, Yami's spreading the word, and she's telling her friends, and they're telling their friends. So whenever I come, I get one of their friends' mother had cancer. She lived in Vegas, so she couldn't come back. But they never told her mother that she had cancer because there's nothing they can do there. So I brought a lot of medicines for her. She eventually died of cancer, but at least I got to help them out
Right.
before she died. So felt really good about that. And you know what? My mother had a huge heart, and I basically inherited that with her. Like nothing makes me feel better.
Well, I mean, what you've done in the past, whether it was the World Trade Center or what you're doing now, that's obvious. What year did you start? 2 years ago?
Yes. And no. I started going to Cuba 2 years ago, and I spent like $8,000. I was like, I can't afford that. And my wife doesn't know that, so make sure you don't tell her.
What
Um,
field?
yeah, so I just said I can't afford this. I had to retire. My pension, I didn't receive my Social Security approval until a week ago, because then I would, so now I retired as if I was 60, which I am. But now that I got the approval, they're going to change my pension as if I was 65, which is great. But again, I cannot really afford, we're not a rich family at all.
You know what? I think one of the keys to a 501c3, unless you're, what's his name from Facebook, Zuckerberg, uh,
Sorry.
it takes a village.
Mhm.
So, 501c3s in general raise money,
Yeah,
and they're not typically going to be self-funded. So, what you want to do, I would think, is going to be extremely popular. And I know you mentioned that you've never really marketed the fi- the charity, and
right.
it's a funny thing that marketing sounds like a business thing, but marketing in a charity is incredibly important
Right.
because, like everything else, you don't want to keep anything a secret when it's important. So, I think given what you're doing, given the constituency that you're helping,
Yeah.
I think that you should do very well once you start to do more of these things. And as I mentioned, I'm sure that there are a ton of Cuban focused podcasts who would love to have somebody like you on, somebody who, is not, you're not preaching, you're not making a political stand, you're not pro, anti anything, you're
Right.
just there to help those who need help.
Yeah.
And, that's phenomenal. I mean, just in today's day and age, something that helps people that is apolitical
Right.
is something else because nothing these days is apolitical. So you're relatively new. You're relatively new at working to grow the charity.
Yeah.
Where do you see what kind of scaling do you think that you could achieve?
Well, you know what? We're grassroots, so it's gonna, get bigger and bigger. Right now, we have a storage area where people can ship essentials, even if they're used, doesn't matter. They need pots and pans, they need forks and knives, they need can openers, they need medicine, they need vitamins, they need clothing. So right now I have a warehouse and I have a bunch of see-through bins and I put tapes on them and I just separate everything. Like, men's clothing, kids' clothing, medicines, vitamins. And that's basically how I'm doing it now. And there's a lot of friends that are donating, and they're shipping it to my shipping, storage facility in New Rochelle. So I'm getting a lot of donations, but I haven't really raised a lot of money. I mean, I raised a couple $1,000s, but that doesn't really pay. Basically, it costs about $800 for each team member to go. And then, of course, we have to bring money with us, because if you exchange with the government, it's only 120 pesos to the dollar. But when you exchange it on the street, it's a lot more. It's like 220 pesos. Then last time I went was 250 pesos in the beginning of the week. And then in midweek,
$51.
yeah, it would turn into
Right.
260 pesos. So,
So when you raise money, from reading your website, and if anyone wants to go to the website, it's SupportCubans.Life.
yeah,
Uh, any monies you raise, the actual cash money is used to fund your trips.
100%.
It's not used to fund salaries and
Not at all. Everybody on my team volunteers.
which is great.
Yeah,
When you judge a charity, a big way that it's judged is by what expenses do they have.
right.
And when you don't have any, when you're volunteering everything, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
So you know, at some point when you grow to a size where you can become rated by the charity rating agencies, you know, the fact that you're all volunteer is gonna, you know, I think that again, anyone who hears about what it is you're doing, I think, particularly those with Cuban background,
Mhm.
you know, I know, you know, Miami has a huge,
Oh, yeah, my cousins all live down there.
yeah, what are they called? Expats? No,
They
they're
call Little Cuba. When people can't speak English, they say, you got to learn the language.
right. No. So in that community, do they know of what you do?
Just my cousins know, but like I said, hopefully through these podcasts, the world will know because he's.
100%. Now, you know, how many people who look at what they have and they say, you know, this is garbage.
Right.
But one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
Yep.
And, you know, if you're throwing out a, like you said, you're looking for can openers. You know, if you're throwing out a can opener, somebody else can use that can opener. And
Absolutely.
it's
And as kids grow older, obviously they grow out of their clothing, so they can donate a lot of that. Kids walk around there in diapers.
You know what? To tell you the truth, I lost a couple of pounds, and I have bags of clothes
Oh,
that
great,
don't fit me anymore. And you
great.
know, I usually have one place I give them, but you know what? I'll give them to you.
Well, you know what? We always gave to the Salvation Army, and that's obviously great. But it's such a big organization; they have to pay a lot of people, and my organization needs it more, I think, than anybody. But that's just my opinion.
No, no, no. It's funny you say that. So, you know, as I mentioned before we started, you know, I'm the board chair of a combat veteran charity. And
Right,
there are a lot of big military charities out there that are hundreds of millions of dollars.
right.
And what I always tell people, my charity is $1 million. So
Okay.
you know, the fact of the matter is, by donating to somebody like you, SupportCubans.Life, you're making an impact. Instead of being a ripple on a pond, you're a, you know, a tsunami in a pond.
Well, I'm
And
working on that.
which one,
That-
the tsunami?
yeah.
In what way?
Well, yeah, I'm going to just build up my organization.
Right, right.
And so basically they say you have to surround yourself with positive people. And I've always done that. So my friends are very giving and very loving. And because I've been in the martial art community, even those people, they got big hearts.
Yep.
And so they're donating and their time and their, whatever essentials and clothing. All my friends are. So the most donations I have now are from my friends. So, which is a great start.
Oh,
And I have
100%.
like hundreds of pounds. And the other thing, my credit card for SupportCubans.Life, I only purchase things that people don't donate that they absolutely need.
Right.
So it all goes to every bit of it goes to my organization to give to the people of Cuba.
So now, do you have, does your organization have a Facebook page?
You know what? I had a real issue with Facebook because Facebook is now AI.
Hmm.
Because so I had this issue where they blocked my page and they said I had
Because,
copyright infringement.
really?
And when I finally got back on, it was a music video that I directed and I've had on my wall for over 12 years. And then they sent me another one. So I think I obviously have to do a Facebook page,
Right.
but I can't do it under my name because I have two stunt pages because I have a stunt school that I still have running. It's the only stunt school here on the East Coast. The West Coast has lots of stunt schools, but I basically created because two young kids died during during training, and they just didn't have a place to train. The through line I put was they both died in different ways, but they died because they didn't have education. They wouldn't have died if they had education. So I never wanted to see another young stunt performer pass away, with not having knowledge. And that's why I created the stunt school. So what was the first question?
No, just in terms of marketing the charity,
Yeah.
you need an Instagram page. You need, I
Yeah,
mean,
no, so I'm gonna do that, but it's just gonna be under somebody else's email.
but I think when you have, the hashtags, the keywords, the
Yeah,
ones that you'll be using, I think are going to attract a lot of attention because, you know, whether it's Cuban philanthropy or whether it's, you know, helping people, whatever it is. I
right.
think that, your tagline, your keywords, your hashtags will be very positive, and I think should get you quite a bit of attention, which
My
is
problem is I'm 60 and I don't come from that generation. So when he
I'm
said,
65 and I don't come from that generation either,
I
so I don't
know,
want to
but
hear any excuses.
no, 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 no. I'm not giving excuses. I just don't have. I obviously got to hire somebody to do that. The all that stuff because I grew up, with cell phones.
Right. Well,
I mean, without cell phones, no internet. So
to be not to demean my skills at social media, but it's really not that tough. I think you could do fine with it, but if you have an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old,
yes,
they can certainly help you.
and they're part of my team.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
so, yeah. I'll have
get.
them help me. Thank you for that advice. I
Yeah,
really
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Because you know what? These days, there's no real way to promote yourself
Right.
better better than social
I've
media.
never been in this position because I've never ever wanted to ask, like, when I had the cancer, people wanted me to start a GoFundMe page. I was like, no, man, I'm not going to take that. Now I will obviously take anything for the SupportCubans.Life organization.
You know what? My wife always says that I never ask people for anything, but when it comes to asking people to donate to my charity,
Right.
I have no problem doing that.
Either.
So, it's an interesting thing, but
Yeah.
I mean that's just human nature. So, if you had to tell somebody watching this what it is, what message would you like to send?
Um, Good question. I am so in love with these people. I got so affected, profoundly affected by their situation. And the most amazing thing is how they can smile. It just blows me away. I don't feel scared at all. When I go to Puerto Rico, I can go to bad neighborhoods and I feel terrified.
Hmm.
Um, I can go to Colombia and obviously the cartel and all that, terrified. Not me, but other people. And I just never been to a country where everybody could be that in that bad of shape, um, and be happy. It's just, they don't. When you give a person 200 pesos, which is less than $1, they look at you like you gave them $1 million. If you give a kid a lollipop or a pack of gum, it's just like, you gave them $1 million. There's no other way to explain it. Like they're just
Right.
so appreciative.
You know,
Um,
that says a lot. So most people, myself included, don't know that much about Cuba other than what we read or see, and to hear firsthand that the people, they sound like they're phenomenal. And
so there's a Netflix film. It just came out. It's called Cuba and the Cameraman. And my wife watched it with me because she hasn't been to Cuba, but she totally supports the organization. But when she watched that with me, she got it. She got how the people every year it just becomes a worse and worse situation for them. Yet they smile.
right,
It's just
that's
unbelievable.
you know what I always tell my kids that you should look down, not up. You should appreciate what you have and understand what other people don't have. And I think that's a little bit lacking in our country. People are always looking up and saying, why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And I think, what you're saying about the people who you encounter in Cuba is that they are, you know, they can't look down because they're kind of
In a
already,
situation.
but yet they smile,
Yep.
and that's just phenomenal. So Chazz, if somebody wanted to either reach out to you or get in touch with you, or your website is the website SupportCubans.Life.
Mhm.
But if they wanted to contact you, what's a good email address?
Chad's at SupportCubans.Life,
Easy enough, two Z's.
two Z's. And I actually have a person, my friend Robbie, that is taking care of all the issues or questions they have. And if he has to pass them over to me, he'll forward that email to me, and then I will answer those questions.
Fantastic.
So I have a really good support staff. My wife is treasurer. My kids, my two sons help me with the donations that are shipped to my storage house, my storage facility. Yeah, so I really have that end of it together.
That's fantastic. And I know
Yeah.
the address to send things is on the website.
Yes.
Once again, SupportCubans.Life.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think that, now that you're going to get out there and get rolling, I think that the sky's the limit for you. And
Thank
I,
you.
I think you're going to be very successful.
Well, I had a good start now. It's my
Well,
first podcast.
and you did it unbelievable. So, I would love to have you on in 6 months and find out where you're at.
That'd be great. I'd love that.
All right.
Thank,
Well, listen, you keep on keeping on, man. You're doing God's work, and God bless you.
thank you.
My pleasure.
Is this where I say bye?
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And we hope that you enjoyed the show. Next week, we will have another terrific guest telling their story. And if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear more about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our curiosity, like yours, knows no bounds. Please subscribe and like and share this episode on your social media. See you next week.
Thank you so much, Michael. You're a great guy.